Okay, so here we go. Hey, it's Bill Gross, the LA probate expert, and I get together with leading industry experts, attorneys, vendors to help us learn about the probate process and be more effective with our clients and our own business. I'm excited to have Megan Waugh, an attorney here in Southern California that I've actually been working with her on a case lately. Hey, Megan, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Right, and we were just chatting a little bit about how good you are doing. So give us a little background. Where are you from originally, and then what was it that got you into the field of law?
Okay, so I'm originally from Peoria, Illinois.
Oh, now
It's
you're just bragging.
a beautiful city. Now, if you were to draw a line between Chicago and St. Louis, we're right in the middle. So
Mhm.
I'm from Central Illinois, always wanted to go out to California. When I graduated from University of Illinois, I decided, okay, I'm going to go to Pepperdine Law. So went to Pepperdine Law School, landed in Malibu, decided I would take the California State Bar. I passed. And so
Imagine that.
imagine, yay. I was like, if I fail, then I'll just go to Illinois. So I passed, stayed in California, and I actually found my first job in trust and estates litigation on Craigslist. So I was
Oh,
working at a personal injury law firm during law school, hated it, and I just didn't like personal injury. And so it was like 2 in the morning. I'm on Craigslist trying to find a job. And I found a job and I ended up loving it. I landed into that area, was at that firm for a couple of years before I went out on my own.
wow.
So,
So now you're on your own,
yes, I'm on my own.
and your focus is
Trust, estates, litigation, basic trust, probate administration, and conservatorships. So any issues surrounding death and dying and incapacity.
got it.
Yeah.
And describe your firm a little bit. Sole practitioner, you have partners. How do you run your business?
So it's myself and I have an intern who's at Pepperdine. She's going to be a 3L. So it's her and I. And so I'll hopefully be bringing her on and just start to kind of pull from Pepperdine and grow the business from there.
Which, by the way, I've been to a lot of college campuses in my prior life. One of the most beautiful campuses in the world, Pepperdine.
Yeah.
I don't know about the academics or the schooling. I'll leave that to you to tell me about, but it is just a beautiful campus. I don't
It
think
was
it's a big one.
lovely. It was
Yeah, yeah.
lovely.
So you said you didn't like personal injury. You got into trust. Was it just anything but personal injury, or was this drawn to you, or why do you think you've stayed with it since?
I don't know. I just got it. And thankfully so, because I was really sad that I was in personal injury because it wasn't speaking to me, it wasn't clicking with me, it just wasn't working. And then I started doing trust and estates work and it just it just flowed. I just
Right.
found my, I guess for lack of a better word, flow state in this area of law. I just got it. And maybe I like the drama, I guess, and it's not boring and there's lots of work and the bar is relatively friendly. So all the attorneys are fairly cordial with each other. And unlike civil litigation, it can get pretty nasty.
Yeah.
Uh, it just clicked. It just clicked.
So
Thank you.
somewhat random, you found it, but then it clicked once you were there.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
I
Exactly.
think it's so true in so many businesses that, when you're in a broad practice, law, accounting, real estate, it can be difficult and you end up in some niche by random. It may or may not fit, but once you find the one that fits, for me, that was probate real estate, then all of a sudden everything just kind of falls into place for you.
Exactly.
So good for you.
Thank you.
So, so how would you, obviously, I don't know if this is news to you or not, but there are a lot of attorneys in Southern California and a lot of attorneys in the LA area. I know how I found you. We'll talk about that a little bit, but how do you suspect people find you, or what is it that you strive to do to differentiate yourself from the others so that people would work with you and be served with you?
I think most people find me through referrals, which I actually prefer
Yeah.
than pulling from the general public. So then that way people are vetted. Um, but I think most people enjoy working with me because I'm responsive, I listen, and I'm realistic. So I basically tell people, okay, this is what's going on. Here's how much it's going to cost you. This is the likely outcome. How can we make it all work?
Yeah.
Um, and so, I'm not trying to build up the file, not trying to pull a fast one, just walk people that's kind of where I see myself. I'm more as a guide through the process.
Yes.
And that tends to work out well for me. And then I do referrals from that.
What percentage of your business is pre-estate planning, pre-problems, planning estates, and what percentages they have one and now they either litigate or need administration?
So I've always wanted to do more estate planning.
Hmm.
But litigation just keeps coming in. So it's lucrative and it's nice to have. I would say about 10 to 50% of my business is estate planning.
Okay. And
Litigation.
but you like that, and you obviously being a litigator, you know what doesn't work or what to try to work around in the documents. I always feel like an estate planner that either is a litigator or in a firm with litigation is going to be more effective than one that just sits all day long churning out paperwork and they never hear back from their customers.
Oh, 100%. And you're able to successfully scare your estate planning clients because you say, "Oh, this horrible thing can happen."
Yes.
This
Yeah.
horrible thing can happen.
Yeah. 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 No. I mean, I try. Look, I try to scare. I know the challenge. I try to scare customers every day, clients, friends, family who don't have estate plans. I mean, literally today, uh, I represented successfully a court confirmation sale of a case that's been in litigation for 6 years,
Wow.
and one of those ugly, family, emotional, and the customer doesn't have an estate plan.
Wow.
And so he's now selling his property, it's worth a lot. And I'm like, okay, so you have a trust set up, right? Well, no, because we talked about it before. And I said, well, we're closing the escrow. You're going to put the money in your new trust with the property. Well, I don't know. Should I do that now? Do it later? Like, we just went. You're like the before story that I tell other people. Don't you get that? You know, with your legal bills. I don't know why people don't jump up. It must frustrate you too. What do you see in people that they just don't get? What do you see that you wish you could scream at them that say, don't you get this? This is going to save you a fortune down the road. Or not even just money, but the emotion, the aggravation, the family conflict. What would you like to say to them that you can't say to your customers, but you can say here on a video that they might listen to?
So this is going to kind of cut against you, but I do tell people that you can't plan for crazy. So a plan isn't going to keep you out of court, as you've seen.
Yeah.
So if in some instances, it actually might be better not to do a plan.
Mm.
In most cases, it usually is the better option so that you can have control of how your assets get distributed and how things run. But trusts are a hotbed for litigation as well. So that's something that people should be mindful of, because they call me up to do an estate plan and they think, oh, I'll do a trust and this will be the end all be all. And I have to remind them, this too can go into litigation. So people do need to be mindful of that. But I think the big issue that I encounter I work typically with people around my age, younger adults who have young kids, where their trust estate wouldn't be subject to litigation because there isn't any sort of like undue influence or dementia going on. I think people just don't. This is more philosophical, but I don't think people are don't think about their death. And, they don't think they're going to pass away. They don't think it's going to happen to them, or they don't want to think about it. Sure. And that's, I think the problem is, that's not going to happen to us and we don't need to plan for it and don't worry about it, even though it is the inevitable. So.
The Nile is not just a river in Egypt.
Huh?
The Nile is not just a river in Egypt.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and I can attest to the litigation in the States. I actually track all the sales and all the real estate going through the LA County. And I remember the first time I noticed, there was the state of, they said, but then there's trust of this or the such and such trust. I thought, why are there so many lawsuits with trust? I thought trust protect you from lawsuits. And the answer is not. Maybe it protects you if you're sued. Maybe it limits liability. Maybe it limits the issues you can discuss. But anybody can sue anybody for anything, and it seems like they do here in Los Angeles.
That can happen. Yeah, like I said, you can't plan for crazy. If there's someone who's upset about something, they can sue for it. If you disinherit your family members, you can expect that there might be a lawsuit. If you put someone in charge who's not trustworthy, that can be another lawsuit. And then really the stuff that this has really nothing to do with individuals themselves, but as you know, as people get older, what tends to happen is you see the adult children start to play this game of like what we call capture the queen.
Mm.
So someone usually the mom outlives the dad in a, you know, standard situation. And then the kids are starting to take mom, and who's going to get control of mom, who's going to be in charge. So that's the typical scenario that we see have happen. And there's really, usually the mom has dementia or Alzheimer's, and there's nothing you can do about it to stop it. And then there's where the litigation happens.
Right.
After the fact.
And more as people live older, you know, physically, the mental becomes more of an issue. And so you can just see, I can just see in the few years last few years, the significant increase as years go by of more of these kind of challenges and issues. So let's talk about probate then a little bit as well. What do you see as, I'm sure like me, you see, I mean, I saw it today, you know, an attorney on the side who just, I'm sure he sounded good to his client, but he doesn't know what he's doing, and therefore they're in trouble and they're not getting things that they want to get done. What do you see as challenges that you know, the wrong attorney can create for their client that you avoid by, you know, being somebody who focuses in on this? Meaning, you know, when I look at an attorney, I often go to their website, I see what they specialize in is DUI, civil litigation, bankruptcy, probate, and 15 other things I even know about. I know we're in for a rough ride. When I see somebody like you who has maybe related trust, probate administration, conservatorships, they're all kind of related. They're in the same court in LA. What do you see in the practice of law that you'd like to maybe have a prospective customer understand that that doesn't have to be that way, and that you can help them prevent by being an expert?
Oh, it helps so much to go to an attorney who's specialized in the field, whether that's me or another attorney who practices trust and estates litigation. I think I said before, the bar is very cordial, and it's also very small, so we know each other. So there's also, we know who's not a trust and estates litigator, and that does make it more difficult for the attorney, because then we're educating the other side on how to get this matter resolved. When both attorneys know what's going on, then we can just cut through a lot of the fluff. And it, you know, and then at some point it just becomes a business transaction where each side knows each other's positions, and how do we just push it forward? And it saves the clients time and money.
The statistics I have is that 90% of probate cases in LA County are by attorneys who've done one or less probate in the last 12 months. Does that surprise you?
Really? I thought people might be moving into probate. I thought they might. I don't know. That might be.
I don't know if they move into probate as much as they get they get a probate case related to their practice, and rather than say no and send to a specialist, they say yes and try to do it. And from where I sit, now personally, I look for those attorneys to try to help them, because I think I can be kind of like a free paralegal and help them through the process. But I see that those who don't, they're not serving their clients. I see that happen all the time. And it's like, even just today, I could just tell the attorney filed the wrong form, and the judge, you know, politely told them, and then the attorney's like arguing with the judge. I'm thinking, don't
Judge
do that.
Rosenblum is very sweet. So
I'm sorry?
the Judge Rosenblum is very sweet.
Yes. But he's very nice.
Yes.
But, you know, at some point he got a little testy. You push him far enough and he's going to, yeah. So, and I saw this guy push him, I think, a little farther than I would. I don't know. It's, I guess we'll see. So, well, great. So you must talk to people. I get that people come to you referred, but I imagine at some point in time, you're the expert in your family or friends or network or social group, and people say, what should I do? Should I get a family plan? I'm getting married. We're having kids. We've come to some money. What's your advice to people who are not yet have any plan altogether? I get it's not a be all end all, but how do you explain to them that better do some planning than none at all?
So yes, you're right. I do get so many phone calls and so many questions about this particular area, especially when, again, you're right, big life events happen. And when big life events happen, you should consider an attorney. So marriage, obviously, divorce, obviously, and then when you're anticipating death. The biggest thing that I sell people on is, yes, we talked about the trust can have litigation and there can be issues, but it is so much better and it's so much easier to have a plan. It does make it a lot easier for your family. And the biggest selling point is people should at least do powers of attorney. The reason being is that protects the individual while they're alive. A lot of people say, oh, I'm just going to be dead. It doesn't matter. They can figure it out. Well, the nice thing about the power of attorney is that it's really easy to do. You do a power of attorney for your healthcare, do a power of attorney for your finances. And that way, if you become incapacitated, someone can take care of your affairs.
Right.
Otherwise, you're looking at a potential conservatorship. And now I can easily explain to potential clients or current clients the horrors of conservatorships because of the Britney Spears case. So I can easily say, look at what's going on with Britney Spears. That's a conservatorship proceeding. And the conservatorship process is expensive and invasive. Your medical, your financial records are at issue. They're going to take your rights away, and a durable power of attorney can prevent that from happening. So to me, that's the biggest selling point is, okay, I understand that you might not care because you're going to be dead and your family can figure it out for you. But what happens if you become incapacitated?
That's a good point.
So, and even for younger people, it's the incapacitation from an accident.
Right.
So there's that to consider, and that happens.
I literally one day I was in the fourth floor research room, and this guy came in tears asking about conservatorships and how's he set one up. His son was in an automobile accident and incapacitated and difficult to make decisions. And all the medical providers are very careful. There's a lot of protections and privacy protections, and they can be a good thing, but they also can make it difficult to make nimble decisions, or the ones that you want made rather than they want to make. So,
yeah. And these are obviously cases that are in the news, but going way back to the Terry Schiavo case back in, I remember her in Florida, but the issue was whether to pull life support or not. And there's cases like that happen in Los Angeles. And if you have an advanced healthcare directive or otherwise a healthcare power of attorney, then you can direct how you want your end of the life to go. So that's another nice thing about having a power of attorney, because these issues are really touchy, because then you get into terminating essentially someone's life, and the courts get nervous because it's a big deal. So if you have simple documentation, it can avoid all of that.
Yeah, that's a great one. You're right. And I think also the families, because so who decides if you don't? And it's not as simple as majority rules, and those cause emotional scars in families forever. Who wants to leave that legacy? The last thing you want to do is create your death to be like the destruction of your family or your children or whatever. So it's just horrific, some of these situations I've seen.
Yeah. And I like doing conservatorships. Most people think I'm crazy for it. I think there's a select few of us who really enjoy it. They're very emotional because people have ideas of how the elderly parent should be treated. Some people see it differently, and therein lies the dispute. And I think most of the time people are well-intentioned about how it should work.
Yeah, well-intentioned. It's not about being well-intentioned. I think you're right. It's just differing in what that means. And when you differ, and it's about mom or dad and their health or death, by definition, that gets very emotional very quickly and can create all kinds of problems. Well, this one a little darker part than I thought. I think the particular case I got involved with you in, I'd seen you actually, I think, in probate court pre-COVID. And I was referred to you by an attorney that I work with on the Probate Advance program, where we help people who can't afford legal help, but are going to be heirs in money, to advance some of the fees, and they can use those fees commonly to get, great legal help rather than nickel and diming it or getting the cheapest attorney that you can afford, or contingency, or whatever that might look like. There's a program where you can advance the fees and pay for it and get a great attorney like Megan to represent you. Talk to me a little bit about representing, objectors or, other siblings as they go through the probate or process.
It really depends upon each client. I think the first thing that I do is I ask them what their goals are, and then we see if that's realistic. And then we move forward from there. Oftentimes it's being the bearer of bad news and saying, look, I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm not going to take your money and try to make something happen that otherwise can't. Or, yeah, we might be able to make that work. So that's usually where I start. And even with people who aren't objecting, every client, okay, what do you want? Where are we going? And is it possible? And do they know? And are they willing? And for many people, that's the beautiful thing about doing it in advance. Are you willing to pay for it? Because when people take out in advance, now they're also putting on the line. And it's like in poker, you play a little bit different when money's on the table.
Right.
Play smarter. And so people play smarter. And I think it's a great service, actually.
Well, great. Well, I worked out for for your client in this case, and I think just in general, I've seen it happen. And there are cases where I've seen clients who attorneys would say to me, well, there's not much that can happen wrong. They're going to get their money or this or that, but the client feels better having somebody stand up for them or show up to court for them. And it's just more about, they're entitled to spend the money if it makes them sleep at night. Because literally they're, and I'm sure you've seen this too. There's customers who just literally can't sleep at night thinking that their sibling or the ex, their stepmother or stepfather are going to somehow steal their money. And they're really paying for the comfort of knowing somebody like you's on the job, at least paying attention for them. They could do it on their own. They just can't do it on their own. And so that's a whole nother piece of this.
And I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense sometimes to have that peace of mind. Because if I'm representing the estate and I know that there's a beneficiary who has an attorney, I'm on it. Like, okay, we're running everything on time. It's it makes things go a lot faster, actually.
Yeah. And they can help with the paperwork and explain to the customer what has to get done. And
that's the huge benefit. It actually saves the attorney running the estate time, because you don't have to talk to the beneficiary. You talk to the attorney talks to the beneficiary. So It actually makes the attorney for the estate's life a lot easier as well.
Yeah. Oh, great. Well, look, I've really enjoyed working with you. I've enjoyed our time here today. If somebody was interested in talking to you about probate litigation, I guess in particular, or trust administration, trust litigation, or even probate case, how would they get a hold of you? What's the best way to start that conversation?
Of course. So they can send me an email. It's probably always the best. My email's my first name, Megan, MEGAN, at WAUGH, my last name, .LAW. Or they can reach me at my phone number, which is 310-869-6140.
Fantastic. We'll put that in the description as well for our social media. So Megan, thank you so much on behalf of the people who watch. Thank you so much for spending some time with us and showing us how people can plan ahead, or if they can't plan ahead, at least make the most of the situation they have. And appreciate your time today.
Of course. Thanks, Bill. Pleasure talking to you.